In every society and culture, good deeds are universally recognized as virtuous. People are praised for acts of kindness, generosity, and selflessness, and many believe that the mere act of doing good is enough to earn respect, admiration, or even spiritual reward. However, beneath the surface of every action lies something far more important than the deed itself, the intention behind it. Why does intention matter? Can a good deed lose its value simply because it was performed with the wrong motive? These questions have been explored by scholars and religious figures for centuries, and in Islam, the answer is profoundly clear. Actions are judged by their intentions. The significance of intention is deeply rooted in Islamic teachings. A famous hadith narrated by Umar ibn al-Khattab states that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Indeed, actions are judged by intentions, and every person will have only what they intended." This statement sets a foundation for understanding the weight of intention in all aspects of life. It is not just about what is done, but why it is done. Two people can perform the same action. One may receive immense reward, while the other gains nothing. A person who gives charity with sincerity, seeking only the pleasure of God, is rewarded, while another who gives to impress others, seeking praise and recognition, may find their deed devoid of spiritual merit. Intention is what separates true righteousness from superficial goodness. It is easy to assume that as long as an action appears good, it must count as a good deed. However, Islam teaches that without sincerity, even the most generous, noble, or self-sacrificial act may hold no weight in the eyes of God. A prayer performed without devotion, a fast done for social approval, or a kind word spoken with hidden self-interest, all of these may seem outwardly righteous, but lack the sincerity required for true spiritual benefit. Beyond religious context, the power of intention is evident in everyday life. A student studying to gain knowledge and benefit society has a different motivation than one studying only to boast about academic success. A person helping a neighbor out of genuine concern differs from one doing so only for social validation. While both may accomplish the same goal, the heart behind the action defines its true worth. This distinction is not always visible to others, but it is always known to the one performing the action and ultimately to God. This understanding of intention reshapes how one views their own actions and decisions. It forces self-reflection and sincerity, encouraging people to ask themselves why they do what they do. Are good deeds performed out of habit, obligation, or the fear of judgment from others? Or are they done with a pure heart, expecting no recognition, but seeking only goodness and righteousness? In the end, it is not the act itself that carries weight, but the sincerity behind it. The Hadith on intentions is one of the most profound and foundational teachings in Islam. It shapes the way believers understand their actions, emphasizing that deeds alone are not enough. What truly matters is the intention behind them. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, stated, "Indeed, actions are judged by intentions, and every person will have only what they intended." This statement has been widely studied by scholars, as it serves as a guiding principle for Muslims in every aspect of life. One of the unique aspects of this hadith is how it highlights the unseen aspect of human actions. While the world focuses on what is visible, the external deeds people perform, Islam shifts attention to the internal state of the heart. A seemingly identical act can have entirely different values based on the person's intention. If someone prays, fasts, or gives charity for the sake of God, they are rewarded. But if they do the same act seeking praise, recognition, or social status, their actions lose spiritual value. The Hadith does not simply encourage good deeds, it teaches that sincerity is the true measure of those deeds. The Arabic language carries a richness that is sometimes lost in translation, and this is especially true for this Hadith. Some translations phrase it as, "Actions are judged by intentions," while others say, "Actions are but by intentions." The subtle difference in wording can slightly alter the emphasis. but the core meaning remains intact. Every action is accompanied by an underlying motive, and it is that motive that determines the outcome of the deed in the eyes of God. This profound teaching has influenced Islamic scholarship for centuries, with many scholars placing this hadith at the beginning of their collections to remind readers that the sincerity of one's heart is the foundation of religious practice. Intentions are not just about religious obligations, they affect every aspect of life. Consider a person who donates to charity. If their intention is to help those in need and seek God's reward, their charity is accepted and blessed. However, if their primary goal is to appear generous in front of others, to gain admiration, or to further their own interests, then the act, though still beneficial to those receiving it, holds no weight in the eyes of God. The physical action remains the same, but the internal reality changes its value completely. This concept can also be seen in daily interactions. A person may offer kind words to someone, but their true motivation could be to manipulate, deceive, or gain an advantage. On the other hand, another person may speak with sincerity, genuinely wanting to uplift and encourage. The difference is not always visible to others, but it is known to God and to the individual themselves. The Hadith reminds believers to constantly check their intentions, ensuring that their actions are rooted in sincerity rather than personal gain. Islamic history offers many examples where the purity of intention determined the true value of an action. One of the most famous instances relates to the migration of the early Muslims from Mecca to Medina. During this time, some people left Mecca solely for the sake of Allah, enduring hardships and sacrifices because they sought to obey God's command. Others, however, made the journey with different intentions, such as business opportunities or personal reasons. The Prophet, peace be upon him, made it clear that each person's migration would be judged based on their intention. If they migrated for God and His messenger, then they would be rewarded accordingly. But if they migrated for personal reasons, then their journey, while still physically the same, would not hold the same spiritual significance. This example illustrates how two people can engage in the same act, but receive completely different outcomes in terms of divine reward. It also serves as a powerful reminder that intention is not just an abstract concept. It has real consequences in both this life and the hereafter. The Hadith teaches that true success is not just about doing the right things, but doing them for the right reasons. Understanding this Hadith also changes the way one views mistakes and failures. If someone genuinely strives to do good but falls short, their effort is still valued because their intention was pure. For instance, a person who attempts to memorize the Quran but struggles with it will still be rewarded for their sincere effort, even if they never complete their goal. In contrast, a person who outwardly succeeds in religious practices but harbors insincere motives may find their deeds void of true benefit. This understanding brings comfort and encouragement, knowing that what truly matters is the sincerity of the heart rather than just the outward results. This hadith also serves as a warning against hypocrisy. It is easy for someone to appear righteous in public while their heart is filled with selfish desires. A person may perform religious duties mechanically, without genuine devotion, simply to maintain a good image in society. However, this external display of righteousness holds no real value if it is not backed by sincere intention. The Prophet, peace be upon him, constantly reminded his followers that their worship should be directed toward God alone, not toward gaining status or approval from others. By emphasizing intention, Islam fosters a sense of self-awareness and accountability. Every person is responsible for evaluating their own motives and purifying their hearts. This practice of self-examination ensures that good deeds are performed with sincerity rather than ulterior motives. It also prevents individuals from becoming overly concerned with external validation, as they understand that their true reward comes from God, not from human recognition. The wisdom of this hadith extends beyond acts of worship and religious duties. It applies to personal relationships, work ethics, and even daily habits. A person working to support their family with honesty and dedication can turn their profession into an act of worship simply by setting the right intention. Similarly, small acts of kindness, such as smiling at someone, offering assistance, or speaking a kind word, become spiritually meaningful when done with sincerity. Even something as simple as studying or seeking knowledge can be elevated to an act of worship if the intention is to benefit oneself and others, rather than just to seek prestige. Ultimately, this hadith is a guiding principle that shapes the way Muslims approach life. It encourages people to focus not just on their outward actions, but on the state of their hearts. It serves as a reminder that God is not only aware of what is done, but also why it is done. The world may judge people based on appearances, but in the sight of God, it is the sincerity of intention that determines the true worth of every deed. In Islam, the concept of intention holds immense weight, shaping not just acts of worship, but every aspect of a person's life. The true value of a deed is not solely based on its outward form, but rather on the sincerity behind it. A good action performed without the right intention may carry no spiritual reward, while even the simplest act, if done with sincerity, can be elevated to an act of worship in the eyes of God. This idea transforms the way Muslims approach their actions, constantly reminding them to assess the motives behind everything they do. One of the most powerful aspects of intention is that it distinguishes acts of obedience from mere routine. A person may wake up for prayer in the early hours of the morning, but if they do so solely out of habit or pressure from society, rather than a desire to connect with God, then the deeper spiritual benefit may be lost. Similarly, fasting during Ramadan without reflecting on its purpose and meaning reduces the act to mere abstention from food and drink. The same principle applies to charity, pilgrimage, and even everyday acts of kindness. Without sincerity, these actions may serve social or personal interests, but they do not fulfill the higher purpose of seeking divine reward. At the same time, a seemingly ordinary act can be transformed into something profound when accompanied by the right intention. A person going to work to earn a living might see their job as nothing more than a means of financial survival, but if they set the intention of providing for their family, contributing to society, and conducting themselves with honesty, their work becomes an act of worship. A smile, a kind word, or helping a neighbor might seem like minor gestures. Yet when done with sincerity and the intention of pleasing God, they become sources of immense reward. Islam teaches that every action, no matter how small, holds meaning when performed with a pure heart. The importance of intention is also deeply connected to accountability. People often judge one another based on what they see, yet they have no way of knowing what lies in a person's heart. Someone may appear outwardly pious, praying in the mosque regularly, donating to charity, or speaking eloquently about faith. But if their intention is to gain admiration rather than serve God, their deeds lose their true merit. Conversely, a person who may not be widely recognized for their good actions, yet carries a heart full of sincerity, may be more beloved to God than those who are outwardly praised. This understanding shifts the focus away from seeking validation from others and instead encourages self-examination, ensuring that one's efforts remain pure and free from hypocrisy. The weight of intention extends beyond worship and influences human interactions as well. Relationships, friendships, and even professional dealings are all shaped by motives. If a person offers help to someone, but does so expecting a favor in return, their act is driven by self-interest rather than genuine kindness. If someone engages in a friendship purely for personal gain rather than mutual support and sincerity, the relationship lacks true depth. Islam teaches that every interaction should be approached with honesty and goodwill, ensuring that intentions align with ethical and moral principles. This understanding of intention also provides comfort and reassurance to those who struggle in their faith. A person may try their best to do good, but feel that their actions fall short. However, as long as their efforts are sincere, they are still rewarded. A student who studies not just for grades, but to gain knowledge and contribute to the world, is fulfilling a noble intention. A parent who sacrifices for their children, not for social recognition but out of love and responsibility, is performing an act of worship. Even in moments of personal failure, if one's intention remains pure, their struggles hold value in the sight of God. Ultimately, intention is what determines the success of an action. It is the unseen force that gives meaning to deeds, shaping their spiritual impact and determining their worth beyond what is visible to others. Islam places immense emphasis on purifying intentions, urging people to constantly reflect on why they do what they do. By doing so, it shifts the focus away from mere actions and instead encourages sincerity, self-awareness, and a deeper connection with one's Creator. It is human nature to judge actions based on what is visible. Yet time and time again, Islam teaches that what is apparent does not always reflect the truth. A person may look at an action and immediately form an opinion, assuming they understand the motives behind it. But without knowledge of the person's true intention, their judgment may be entirely misplaced. The Hadith on intentions serves as a reminder that only God truly knows what resides in a person's heart. While society often evaluates people based on their outward behavior, Islam shifts the focus to the internal reality, emphasizing that the sincerity behind an action is what truly defines its worth. This concept is best illustrated through real-life examples, where people assume wrongdoing based on surface-level observations, only to later realize they were mistaken. A man entering a nightclub, for instance, may be assumed to be engaging in sinful behavior. But if his purpose is to retrieve his wayward son and bring him back home, his action takes on an entirely different meaning. The world may rush to judge, quick to label him as someone engaging in vice, but his intention, unknown to others, is noble. This demonstrates how outward appearances can be deceiving, and how assumptions based solely on what is seen can lead to false accusations. There are countless instances where people misunderstand actions simply because they do not have access to the full picture. A person attending a gathering that is considered inappropriate may be criticized, yet they may have been present only to advise someone or to fulfill an obligation that has nothing to do with engaging in the behavior taking place. A man seen conversing with someone known for wrongdoing may be accused of bad company, yet his purpose might be to guide that person toward the right path. In another scenario, an individual giving money to someone known for dishonesty might be thought of as foolish, when in reality, they may be fulfilling a duty of charity without expecting anything in return. These examples reveal how easily people jump to conclusions without truly understanding the depth of a situation. This tendency to judge without knowing intentions is not only harmful to individuals, but also to society as a whole. When people assume the worst of others, it breeds suspicion, unnecessary conflict, and even injustice. A person's reputation may be tarnished based on assumptions rather than facts. Trust within communities erodes when individuals are quick to judge one another rather than giving the benefit of the doubt. Islam encourages a different approach, one that emphasizes humility, caution, and the recognition that only God has the full knowledge of a person's heart. While actions can sometimes indicate a person's character, they should never be used as the sole basis for judgment without understanding the deeper reasons behind them. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, constantly emphasized the importance of looking beyond appearances. There were many instances in his life where he saw past the external and understood a person's internal struggle. He did not assume the worst of people, nor did he encourage quick judgment based on limited knowledge. Instead, he reminded his followers to be mindful of their own intentions and to avoid assuming knowledge of others' hearts. This approach is particularly relevant in the modern world, where social media and instant communication often lead to rapid judgment. A person's actions can be misinterpreted within seconds, shared widely without context, and condemned without investigation. Islam calls for restraint, urging believers to think before forming conclusions and to remember that they themselves would not want to be judged unfairly. There is also a warning in misjudging others. By focusing too much on the outward actions of people, one may neglect their own intentions. It is easy to critique someone's behavior, yet more difficult to look inward. and ask whether one's own actions are truly sincere. A person who ridicules another for attending an event deemed inappropriate may be harboring arrogance or self-righteousness, making their criticism void of sincerity. A person who rushes to expose someone else's supposed faults may themselves be guilty of actions that are no better. This is why Islam emphasizes personal accountability over passing judgment on others. It is not the external appearance of a deed that will be judged in the afterlife, but the sincerity with which it was performed. By recognizing that human perception is limited and that only God sees the full truth of every action, believers are encouraged to be more compassionate, to think before assuming, and to recognize that their role is not to judge, but to focus on their own intentions. The world is full of complexities, and what appears to be wrong may, in some cases, be right, just as what appears to be good may be lacking in sincerity. Instead of making quick assumptions, people are called to practice humility, patience, and fairness, understanding that only the Creator fully knows what resides in every heart. Intention is at the heart of every action, and in Islam, it plays a crucial role in both acts of worship and daily life. A deed is not merely judged by its external form, but by the sincerity with which it is performed. Whether it is prayer, fasting, charity, or even simple daily activities, the value of an action is shaped by the purpose behind it. A person can perform the exact same act as another, yet their reward or accountability may differ entirely based on what was in their heart. This understanding transforms the way believers approach their lives, ensuring that every action carries purpose and meaning beyond its outward appearance. In worship, the significance of intention is particularly emphasized. Prayer, one of the most fundamental obligations in Islam, requires a conscious intention before it is performed. A person who prays without understanding why they are doing so, merely going through the motions, may complete the act physically, but miss the spiritual connection that gives it meaning. Fasting during Ramadan follows a similar principle. Simply abstaining from food and drink is not what makes the fast valuable. It is the intention behind it, the act of self-restraint, the obedience to God, and the spiritual purification that come with it, that truly define the fast. Without that intention, fasting becomes nothing more than an empty exercise in hunger and thirst. Charity is another powerful example of how intention transforms an action. Giving wealth to those in need is an inherently good act, but if a person does it for praise, recognition, or social status, the sincerity of the act is compromised. While the recipients may still benefit from the money, the giver may receive no spiritual reward because their purpose was not pure. However, if someone gives quietly, without seeking acknowledgement, their charity becomes an act of true devotion. The same amount of money may be given, but the one whose heart is sincere in their giving finds a far greater reward than the one who seeks attention. Beyond worship, intention shapes everyday actions in ways that elevate even the most ordinary tasks. A person going to work every day might see it as a mere obligation, a way to earn money and pay the bills. But if they shift their intention and work with the mindset that they are providing for their family, serving their community, and maintaining their integrity, then even their job becomes a form of worship. A parent caring for their children, a student seeking knowledge, or a neighbor helping another with small tasks, all of these actions, when performed with sincerity and a higher purpose, take on spiritual significance. The beauty of Islam is that it does not confine righteousness to specific religious rituals. Instead, it encourages people to make every moment of their lives meaningful through the right intention. Even something as simple as eating a meal can be turned into an act of gratitude by remembering that food is a blessing. Resting can be seen as preparation for more productive efforts in service to God and others. The smallest gestures, smiling at someone, offering a kind word, showing patience, when done with sincerity, become acts of goodness that carry immense reward. This understanding of intention brings both comfort and responsibility. Comfort, because it assures believers that even if their actions seem small or unnoticed by others, they are still valuable if done with a sincere heart. Responsibility, because it means that one must constantly be aware of their motives, ensuring that their deeds are not corrupted by selfish desires. It is a reminder that the true measure of a person's actions is not found in how others perceive them, but in the sincerity with which they are carried out. Whether in worship or in daily life, intention defines the true worth of every action. The value of any deed is not determined solely by its outward appearance, but by the intention behind it. A single action can hold entirely different meanings depending on what is in the heart of the person performing it. This is a profound truth in Islam, where sincerity is the measure of true righteousness. What may seem like a good deed to the world may, in reality, hold no weight if done for the wrong reasons, while a seemingly insignificant act can carry immense reward when performed with sincerity. Charity is one of the clearest examples of this. A person who donates money to the poor may receive admiration from society. But if their true purpose is to gain recognition, to be seen as generous, or to receive favors in return, then the deed is stripped of its spiritual merit. The act itself benefits those who receive it, yet the giver's reward is lost because the intention was not pure. On the other hand, someone who quietly gives, expecting nothing in return, may perform the same deed. But the sincerity of their heart elevates it, making it beloved in the sight of God. A small amount given in secret, with the intention of pleasing God, can be worth far more than a large sum given with the desire to impress others. Prayer, too, demonstrates how intention changes the value of an act. Two people can stand side by side in prayer, reciting the same words and performing the same movements. Yet one may receive great reward, while the other gains nothing. If a person prays with sincerity, seeking nearness to God and fulfillment of their duty, their prayer is meaningful. But if another prays only to be seen by others, fulfilling the obligation mechanically with no true devotion, their prayer becomes an empty ritual. The external action is identical, yet the internal reality determines whether it is accepted or merely a physical exercise. Even acts of kindness are shaped by intention. A person may offer help to someone in need, but if their purpose is to manipulate, to earn social approval, or to later remind the person of their favor, then the kindness is not truly selfless. Yet another person may extend the same help, but with genuine concern and no expectation of return, making their act far more valuable. A smile, a kind word, or a moment of patience, when done for the sake of God or out of true compassion, carries a weight that far exceeds what is outwardly seen. Work and professional efforts also reflect the power of intention. A person may work hard to succeed in their career, but if their drive is fueled by greed, arrogance, or selfish ambition, their efforts become rooted in worldly desires. Meanwhile, another person may perform the same job with the intention of providing for their family, serving their community, or contributing positively to society, transforming their work into a noble act. Even studying, when done with the purpose of gaining knowledge to benefit others, takes on the character of worship. The same principle applies when assessing mistakes and shortcomings. A person may fall into error, yet if their heart remains sincere, striving for self-improvement, their struggle itself is rewarded. On the other hand, someone who appears outwardly righteous but harbors insincerity gains no benefit from their deeds. The unseen reality of the heart determines whether an action is valuable or meaningless. It is not the action alone, but the reason behind it that defines its true worth. Purifying one's intentions is a continuous process that requires self-awareness, sincerity, and a commitment to aligning actions with genuine purpose. The first step in refining intentions is self-examination. Before performing any action, it is important to pause and ask, why am I doing this? If the motive is for praise, recognition, or personal gain at the expense of sincerity, then the intention must be corrected. Constant self-reflection ensures that deeds are done for the right reasons rather than external validation. Another way to cultivate pure intentions is through private acts of worship and kindness. Doing good when no one is watching helps strip away the need for approval and allows sincerity to grow. A person who gives charity in secret, prays when no one knows, or helps others without seeking acknowledgement strengthens their ability to act purely for the sake of God rather than the opinions of others. This practice reinforces that true reward comes from God alone, not from human admiration. Seeking knowledge about sincerity and reading reminders from the Quran and Hadith can also help maintain pure intentions. The more one understands the significance of intention in Islam, the easier it becomes to prioritize sincerity over superficial benefits. Surrounding oneself with people who encourage humility and sincerity further reinforces this mindset. Being in the company of those who value genuine effort over outward displays of piety helps cultivate an environment where actions are performed for their true purpose rather than for show. Sincere prayer is another powerful tool in purifying intentions. Asking God for guidance in maintaining sincerity, seeking His help in removing arrogance, and making a habit of renewing intentions before every action ensures that even the most ordinary deeds carry a sense of purpose. When actions are consistently evaluated and redirected towards sincerity, they hold deeper meaning and lasting spiritual value. In the end, the true measure of any action is not in how the world perceives it, but in the sincerity with which it is performed. People may judge based on appearances, but only God knows the reality of what is in the heart. A deed that seems righteous can be devoid of reward if done for the wrong reasons, while a small act performed with pure intention can carry immense spiritual weight. The constant challenge is to ensure that actions are not driven by ego, recognition, or worldly gain, but by a genuine desire to seek God's pleasure. True success lies not in how many deeds are performed, but in how sincerely they are carried out. Recognizing this truth encourages self-reflection, humility, and a deeper connection with the purpose behind every action. When a person purifies their intentions, even the simplest acts become meaningful, and their efforts are counted in the sight of the only one whose judgment truly matters. May Allah guide us all to sincerity in our actions, and bless us with hearts that seek His pleasure alone. If you found this discussion valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Islamic insights. Until next time, stay sincere, stay steadfast, and may Allah accept all our deeds. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.